Hi, friends. Thank you for joining us again. This is Sunil Chandy, and this is Food for Thought. And this is not a background behind me. And we are at Christ Episcopal Church in Westerly, Rhode Island. And so this is a ministry out of Christ Episcopal Church in Westerly. And we thank you for being with us today. And today, of course, I'm back in the office, the church office. I'm actually going to be here more often, and hopefully our internet here is going to be great. So that we could continue to do what we've been doing for the past year, which is connecting with you at this 12 o'clock hour till 12 to 12:30, and bringing wisdom and hope and joy to you and to the world around us. And so we thank you for being with us. And if you are here today with us, please do say hello. Tell us that you're here connecting with us. Help us to know that that we mean something for you and your life, and it'll be great. Today we're going to have, of course, this is our normal Monday, where every 2 weeks we have our Sharon Younkin come in and talk to us about some great wisdom, or give us some great wisdom and understanding about mental health. And today she is going to be with us, and I'm looking forward to that conversation. So if you are here, and just connect and tell us that you're here, and if you have any questions, of course, please do ask them. This coming Sunday is Trinity Sunday. It's the Sunday. So last Sunday was the Sunday we celebrated for Pentecost, and it was just a wonderful day of celebration. Of course, it was Pentecost is the day in which we celebrate. I love the virtual. That is not a virtual background, Ben. Don't take that back. That's the stained glass window, and this is the Sedalia behind me, and I go up on there every Sunday, and thanks for helping me lose my train of thought there, Ben. But nonetheless, Pentecost Sunday is what we celebrated this last Sunday, which was it's the birthday of the church. It's the day in which God's Spirit encouraged the disciples to witness, to move away from those locked doors, and to come out of the fright and the fear, and engage life and the world. And so we celebrate every year we've celebrated that every year in the church for over 2,000 years, and it just reminds us about how great God is, and how God can help us encounter our fears and then work through them, and in the midst of community, right? And so this past Sunday, when the restrictions were lifted, we came in without masks, and some of us were masked, and that's okay. In our church, you do what's necessary for you to feel comfortable, so that you could find your relationship with God. Well, many of us came without masks because we're vaccinated, and we've had the first and second vaccination, and we were singing, and it was just beautiful. It was beautiful to hear us sing together as a community. And of course, at the very beginning was we had our soloist Michaela lead us, but then and it was soft. No one was singing, and then we had the sequence hymn, the middle hymn, and people started singing more. And by the end of the service, people were feeling confident. There was a renewed energy. There was a spirit that allowed us to take this traumatic experience and say, okay, we've gone through this traumatic experience in which we were locked behind doors and shuttered almost, and now God has given us a new breath, a new way. And it was just a beautiful service. And I think it was just so very meaningful to me, because it helped me to understand again that God is the one who helps us deal with our challenges and learn from them. And so, yes, Pentecost 2021, the rebirth of the church. Yes, I think so. And so this coming Sunday, we have Trinity Sunday, and it's a Sunday in which priests dread, because we have to talk about the Trinity, right? What does it mean? How is it supposed to help us? And what, and how do you explain it? And it is the bane of every seminarian, because usually if you're a seminarian and you're working in a church, and I remember being in the church working as a seminarian, you had to preach on Trinity Sunday because the priest didn't want to do that. So this Trinity Sunday, I am here and I am preaching, and I love Trinity, and so we'll see what God comes up with in my mind. And so I hope that you will come and join us, either in person or virtually, because we'll still do both. So today, again, we have our wonderful guest, and that is Sharon Younkin. Sharon has just been an inspiration to us. She was staying in Florida for a while. You might not have noticed it because we were always in connection with one another. And she's back in the area, and I'm waiting just to see her in person again. But we'll greet her right now. Ben, would you please bring Sharon on board? Hi, Sharon.
Oh, the studio.
You got the glasses on too. You look like a movie star.
What's that?
You look like a movie star with that haircut and the earrings.
Yes. I am rising out of the ashes of this pandemic.
Yeah. Oh, well, you look beautiful. Thank you.
I finally, as my daughter would say, have a proper haircut. Thank you, everybody, for putting up with my mushroom hair for months. Anyway, I've always said that hair grows back, so I've never been somebody who spends a lot of time thinking about it. But I am happy with this version.
Sharon, really, wait a second. Not all hair grows back. Look at No.
Well, that's true, Father Neil. That is true. I guess you're right. I should be grateful.
Yes, you've got a beautiful head of hair. So
for the hair. Yeah. Speaking of singing, guess what? Like I am going to be returning to the church choir too on June 3rd, our first rehearsal, and then I guess we'll be singing on June 6th.
Yes.
So that's so exciting, right?
It's an amazing experience. I mean, I am looking forward to that. I mean, and I hope the choir members are. I know that they have.
Oh my gosh, I wouldn't miss that for the world. I think I might be bawling while I'm singing. I mean, I even think about it and I start to tear up thinking about singing. I think that's going to be a very emotional service for me.
Yeah. I think, you're right. It's going to be emotional. I mean, Sharon, it's interesting. And I know you have another thing to talk about, but I just want to say on Saturday night, usually at the 5:00 service, we reintroduced the gospel procession, right? Up to this time, I mean, and it's all liturgical stuff. There's a liturgical language. Up to this time, right? I'm taking the gospel and I have it on the pulpit and I read it from the pulpit because, we don't want to be in the midst of congregations, maybe giving the virus away, right? So, so usually at that 5:00 service and the 10:00 service, we do a gospel procession. And at the 5:00 service on Saturday nights, the person who really does the gospel, there's only one person who reads the gospel, and that was our retired priest, the Venerable Trevor Thomas. Trevor he has this wonderful voice, deep voice, this wonderful Welsh accent, and he just makes the gospel come alive, right? And so here's the thing: during the pandemic, he passed away.
Right.
and it was just so
Mm,
I'm doing the gospel prayer session, and I'm just thinking, oh my God, it's Saturday night, and I don't usually do it, and it's usually Trevor who sends and does this,
mm,
and 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 it was hard for me to read, and then right before I started preaching, I said, let's take a moment to acknowledge Trevor, who for these maybe 20, 30 years on Saturday night always read the gospel,
mm, yeah.
and it's just one of those things that, every act I have a sense is going to be emotional for me. I mean, in some
Mhm.
way, it's going to touch me in some way that's different because it's going to remind me of what was and also what had been through this past year
Right.
and what might be in the next year.
Yeah, so many feelings and emotions, are part of these reentry experiences. Yeah, reminding us of what we've all survived together, that we're here together, connecting again, that we reminding us of not taking for granted what we used to take for granted, like being able to sing
Yeah,
together.
yeah,
All so many emotions just wrapped up in all this. I can totally understand why that would have been an emotional
yeah. No, it was just
experience, reminding us of people we've lost who aren't here, who didn't make it through too.
yeah. I mean, it was just powerful, and there's those sad things that we miss, right? But then there are also these new things that we've done in the midst of this COVID crisis that are adaptations,
Yeah.
and so even at the 5 o'clock service, we have this. One of the things that's been a real wonderful gift is that we've had Michaela, who
Mm,
who let who leads the singing both at the Sunday, but
yeah.
with George on Saturday night, she sings too.
She has a beautiful voice. I've
Yep.
so enjoyed listening to her voice. Yeah.
I did, and she's led the singing in
Yeah.
this at this 5 o'clock service, and we have a new group of people who love that.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
we've never had music at the 5 o'clock service, but we're going to continue that. I think
Right.
I think we're just going to continue because people here will respond to it,
Mhm.
and
And
it's a
then having Mr. Kent continue to play, which is beautiful, and then he's been talking more about music on your show and educating folks about that piece, and that's a beautiful thing to have.
it's amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, it's amazing. I mean, and even this food for thought. I mean, having you come every 2 weeks. I mean,
Mm.
people ask me, "What are we going to continue this?" And the thing is, I've enjoyed it.
I have too.
I've
I have
enjoyed it, and it's a way in which we are connecting with people,
Mhm.
and as long as it continues to give life and hope
Mhm.
to people, I think we do it. I mean, George was looking forward to talking with us on food for thought.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
I,
I definitely look forward. Hey, as far as I'm concerned, this is just the beginning, and that's a good segue into mental health. We are on the cusp of a mental health movement, I believe,
good.
a long-awaited, cusp, and I'm starting to see some other movement nationally that I think is really exciting, and so I wanna talk about 2 things. One is that the month of May, I mean, I think we're just we have to be talking about this more, not less, actually. But May is the Mental Health Awareness Month, and I just, did a tiny bit of research. I did not realize we've had a Mental Health Awareness Month of May since 1949,
Wow.
right? I was like, wow. So, and yet there's still so much that we're not talking about and we're not really working on. And I think this has been one of the beautiful things about the pandemic. So, and I'm going to talk in a bit about something that I found online that I think would be helpful for folks too, because it's a tool that encompasses a lot of the topics that you and I have talked about. But um, so I wonder, maybe I should jump to that now, actually, since I'm
Yeah.
talking All right. And then we'll talk about the other thing that I wanted to talk about. But okay, so for those of you, I think this is a wonderful website. So what I discovered is that the National Association for Mental Health, or Mental Health America, has every year there's a theme related to mental health. And this year, during the pandemic, they established this website that has something called Tools to Thrive. So tools and then the number two to thrive. And if you open up, this is what the homepage looks like. And Ben, I don't know if you can scroll down a little bit for us to see some of the topics. There we go. So if you see some of the topics there, and so these are a lot of the themes, Father Sunil, you and I have talked about: accepting reality, adapting after trauma and stress, connecting with others, creating healthy routines, dealing with anger and frustration, eliminating toxic influences, finding the positive after loss, getting out of thinking traps. What is it? Owning your feelings. I feel like I'm taking an eye test. Changes. Supporting others. And let's see if I get the last one. Taking time for yourself. I
No.
did it.
Don't forget the EFGDA.
Right? And you know, I maybe will just let you all get online and look at the rest yourself. Because that's about all I can do with my eyes. But
Well, this is a beautiful tool. I mean,
beautiful, right?
Yeah. What is it? Who sponsors it again? I'm sorry.
Mental Health America.
Mental Health America.
Yeah, there's the link that Ben posted. So, and if you open up any one of those topics, there are just 5 simple points that describe more what is meant about when you use that particular tool. And this all pertains essentially to the pandemic. So I would encourage folks to take a look at this Tools to Thrive online. I think it summarizes a lot of the themes you and I have been talking about over the past year. So the other thing I thought that is really exciting that's going on right now, and folks may have already heard of this, but I checked out that docuseries that Oprah and Prince Harry are putting together now. It's called The Me You Can't See. And it's on Apple TV. And so I watched the first episode last night with my daughter, and it was very powerful. I love the fact that we have 2 public figures like Oprah Winfrey and Prince Harry coming forward to really support the absolute necessity of bringing mental illness and mental health like out of the shadows. And there are moving stories. They had different folks. Prince Harry talked about his own anxiety that he feels, panic attacks and kind of a social anxiety where he will feel overwhelmed, almost kind of, it sounded like some trauma type stuff from being followed by photographers from a young age, and then his mother dying that way, you know, trouble with drinking, but he's very authentic and open about his struggles. And then they had also less known folks. There was a man an African-American man who won that show Chopped in 2018. He's a chef, and some of his struggles, and in the Black community, how therapy is viewed and how that can be a challenge sometimes. And there was a really sweet scene where he was opening up to his parents, and they were just so supportive. And I think that's something that's really important, the role that family plays in supporting someone who's struggling with depression or anxiety or trauma or OCD. And there was a great quote here by Ken Duckworth, who's the Chief Medical Officer of the National Alliance on Mental Health. I thought this was really beautiful. He says that family that doesn't shame you, but helps you to problem solve, that the outcome with mental illness is quite remarkable. So the family role of not shaming someone, but instead engaging, like we have talked about, being a loving witness, listening with love, and and then helping after you validate that person, helping them, being working alongside of them as they problem solve once they've been validated. That in itself is very, very powerful in terms of the outcome of how someone will do.
That's beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's, I mean, the whole idea, and shaming is so so prevalent, not only in families and in society, but also especially in the church. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a sense that if you don't follow this prescribed rules, or there's a sense that you're not good enough. You're not somehow righteous enough. You
yeah.
know, and
And I'm asking myself, why is that, why is that it's so hard? Because I think the stigma in general, when families have a family member struggling, they don't want to own that, right? It's like, "Oh, no, not in our family.
right.
We don't have this kind of thing happen in our family."
Well,
And so
it's tied, I think, to this idea about perfection, and being looked as less than,
mhm,
with your peers, I would sense.
I
Um,
think so too, yeah.
it's interesting. There's this, even in the scriptures, there's this idea about, and Jesus struggles with it all over and over in terms of, in the gospel. It's this idea about who is clean and unclean. And in other words, who is righteous, and who is right with God, or who is not. And those who break the rules, who don't necessarily conform to the idea of, you know, what is a good person, all of a sudden become unrighteous, unclean. And so there's this constant struggle, right?
Yeah,
And Jesus reframes that struggle, though, when he talks about righteousness. And righteousness, I believe he says, is that it's when you're in right relationship with God. When you are in a relationship with God, and it is a relationship of love and understanding and of
mm,
care, and so
mm,
uh, so that's why he's able to say, everyone who anyone, the fisherman and the tax collector, the ex-prostitute, they're all can be in right relationship with God, because it's all about this relationship of love. It's not necessarily about what you do. It's about who you are and how important you feel you are to God, or how you understand your relationship with God, I think.
mm. Yeah, so it's more about the relationship with God than anything else.
It's Yeah, and it's the same thing, like with families, right? I mean, if my sons come in and they said to me, oh, I did horrible on in grades this year at college, right? And I could say, and they feel ashamed to even talk to me about their grades, right? And then I could either say, okay, you know you're right to be ashamed, because what did you do wrong, right?
Yeah,
uh, uh, but the posture may also be, well, what did you learn out of this experience?
right.
Did
Yeah.
you maybe you learned that some of these courses are not what you really are passionate about. Maybe you've learned that you are passionate about, but maybe you need to differentiate your study habits and make it different in order to capture the material. You know, but if the shaming, I know, would lead to an alienation. You
Yeah,
know, you know,
definitely. Definitely, and you don't really understand or get to the root of the problem,
right?
if there is something going on there, and it's easy for anyone to, depending on circumstances and life, I've seen people who have been very high functioning, successful people develop panic disorder out all of a sudden, or it's easy for once you learn the tools and you learn what's going on, a lot of these things are treatable. It's just a matter of your brain kind of gets offline a little bit. Life has a lot of different stressors and variables, and that can kind of take us offline a little bit, and then we get into these ways of thinking or ways of doing that feed an unhealthy response. And it's just a matter of really educating yourself, And so um, when we go to shame, that doesn't allow us to stay open to exploring and figuring something out
Yeah.
and fixing it.
Yeah.
And these things are all treatable, And then there was a very powerful segment where Lady Gaga talked about, or Stephanie is her name, and I just have so much more respect for her.
Yeah. She's got a great story.
Yeah, so you're familiar with her story.
I think so. I mean, I've heard of it, and I've heard some of her interviews, and and I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn, but I think her experience is that she was sexually assaulted, and 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 the thing about it was that she was petrified, it seems like, about people and situations, and about herself, and thinking herself to be not only a victim, but also something wrong with herself, right? And and I heard that story, and then I heard also transformation from her, about her finding her strength again,
Yeah.
and then I started to listen to some of the music that she has, and it's really pretty powerful,
Yeah.
you know, and
This
meaning.
all happened when she was 19, and she was sort of held against her will in some ways by some music producer and assaulted repeatedly, it sounds like, and dropped off at her parents' house when she was pregnant. And she ended up having a psychotic break. And she did everything, and she's on medication and all that, but all of the music she achieved, she did after this. So talk about, like, an incredible spirit, right? And to your point too, you're reminding me too of another thing and I've heard this said before, and it's one of my favorite things I've heard. But Prince Harry at the beginning of the program, quotes this, the idea that what we don't transform, we transmit.
Yeah. Yeah. I see. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think, like, the power, the transformation thing is so important, right?
Mhm.
The negative things that happen to us can disable us,
Yeah.
meaning they could stop us from being able,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Or we can learn from that, and find a way, if there's a way to find meaning in that suffering, and part of that meaning is to help others,
Mhm.
all of a sudden it becomes transformational. I mean, I think it's so brave for even Prince Harry. I mean, this is the man who lives in a community that is hyper focused on doing the right thing,
Yeah.
about being promoting or portraying an image that is almost perfect,
Yes.
and it being criticized every step of the way when you do something that is human.
Yes.
And here he is, talking about his humanity,
Yeah.
and bearing it, and that's so authentic, that's so wonderful, and the thing is, he's using it not to, my sense is, it's to help people to find transformation,
Mhm.
right?
I agree. I think he's realizing that I think he doesn't wanna pass things on to his child.
Yeah.
Now that he's a father, he recognizes that if he doesn't address some of these challenges that he has, that he risks passing it on to his own child, and so that's one of his motivating factors. And I would also say to folks out there that, it's never too late for you, no matter how old your child is. Children always look to their parents, and it's never too late for you to work on yourselves. And I've had people who've at all ages who've decided that they wanna do the work and they're ready to transform And so I think it's something that is it's open, it's something available and open to you no matter what age you are, and that you will have an effect on those around you, the people that you love, by doing that kind of work of transformation. Yeah.
One of the readings for this coming Sunday on Trinity Sunday is this idea about Nicodemus. So Nicodemus is a Pharisee in the Gospel of John, and he comes to Jesus by night. And Jesus is all about transformation.
Mm,
He is once you get an experience of God, you will be transformed, and it's in a life-giving and life-giving way, so that you then help other people become transformed. And so Nicodemus comes to him at night, and this guy, he's like old, right?
mm,
I mean, in the Gospels, it shows this wizened old man coming to Jesus in the middle of the night because he sees something, and he doesn't know if he could really risk being transformed like that. And it isn't really he isn't really spoken about in the rest of the gospel until the very end, in Jesus's death, where he becomes a factor again. But this idea is that, here he is coming in the middle of the night talking about life and hope and the Spirit of God, and that he is, and it's scary, but once he does, it moves his life in a direction that becomes positive and hopeful for the world.
mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, I, I love that. I love the idea that I love and that story just reminded me of what you just said.
Mm.
Any age, you could try this, you could learn any age.
You can learn at any age, and what you choose to transform can have a positive effect on those around you at any age.
Love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Sharon,
Yeah. Yes.
go,
So I
go
would
ahead.
recommend people take a look, check it out. It's an interesting, looks like it's going to be an interesting docuseries. And it's always helpful to hear other stories so you don't feel so alone as well.
Sharon, you always give us new things to think about, new insights, and I'm just so grateful that you're a part of our community, and I'm so grateful that you've helped me through these these conversations. Also, I mean, it's God
Well,
bless you.
God bless you too, Father Sunil. And I'm very grateful too for our friendship and collaboration and the community, this special community that we have, that we're all a part of, and we're all working together through all of this. And so it's been very meaningful and special for me as well.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see you sing again.
Yes,
And hear you.
yes. I'm going to be inviting family members as well. So,
All right, great.
all
Well,
right.
thank you, Sharon. God bless you.
You
We'll
too,
see you
Father
next time.
Sunil. Bye, everyone.
Isn't she wonderful? And I'm going to check out that docuseries. I think it might be something powerful. I hope that you check it out too. And if you do, tell us how you perceived it. Right now, let us end our time with one another in prayer. This is the prayer that's offered, was adapted by one written by Bishop Thomas Brown of Maine. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Jesus Christ, you traveled through towns and villages, curing every disease and illness. At your command, the sick were made well. Come to our aid now in the midst of the global spread of the coronavirus. Heal those who are sick with the virus. May they regain their strength and health through quality medical care. Heal us from our fear, which prevents nations from working together and neighbors from helping one another. Be present with those in authority who are making hard decisions. Support the medical professionals, emergency responders, our counselors, and caregivers. We ask this all in your name, Jesus. Amen. Join with me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Friends, go in peace to love and serve the Lord. Spread the light of joy and hope to the world around us. The world needs it right now.
Thanks for watching. Did you know that you can join Christ Church from anywhere in the world? If you're feeling connected to what we're doing, email us today at communicate@christchurchwesterly.org.